Hello and welcome to the extra episode of my trophy guide for Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. This video is not required to go through the guide. It simply serves as a section where I can share some information about the run to keep each episode as short and packed with content as possible. Ignoring some details and discussing them here will make that a lot easier. But of course you can always use the comment section of the respective episode. I generally answer questions within the day. First, I will give some general information about this game. Personally, I give this game an overall difficulty rating of 6 out of 10. Weirdly enough, the most difficult part of this game is at the very beginning. This game has very unique controls, which takes some time getting used to, and we have to take down a rather powerful boss within the first 5 minutes of the game. Progressing will allow us to build our armored core into a powerful tank, which makes about 90% of the game trivial, which is why it will only get easier from there. Even the most challenging S ranks at the end of the game do not exceed a 6 out of 10 in my opinion. When it comes to grinding, I rate this game as a 2 out of 10. By my definition, grinding means repeating any task that in itself does not work towards any trophy objective. There is no such task present in this guide. The only reason this is not a 0 out of 10 is that reward money for missions will not be entirely consistent for you and me, meaning that when I purchase parts from the shop, you might be off by a little. In that case, you will have to complete any of the previous missions through mission replay, which is then technically considered grinding. Additionally, we will have to get an S rank on every mission, which I highly doubt anyone will be able to do within one try for each mission. Missable trophies are tricky to define for this game as well, since we will have to play through the game several times, and some trophies cannot be obtained over a single playthrough anyways. I will therefore define missable trophies as any trophies that, when missed, increase the amount of playthroughs past the theoretical minimum, being 3. First, we have one trophy for either of the regular endings, the Fires of Raven and Liberator of Rubicon. You will get either of them depending on your choices, meaning that if you do not pay attention, you might get one of them twice, missing the other. We then have the trophies Alia Jacta Est and MIA, which are both obtained on the way to the third hidden ending. Both can also be missed when refusing to help Allmind. For these same reasons, the Perfect Mercenary and Stargazer trophies for unlocking all missions and getting an S rank on them are also missable if you do not get all endings. Missing certain ending-exclusive missions also makes some or all of the following trophies unobtainable in 3 playthroughs: Combat Log Collector, Weapon Collector, External Parts Collector, Internal Parts Collector, and Asset Holder. And finally, the last 3 arena missions become available throughout the 3rd playthrough, but become unavailable after reaching the 3rd ending, making the Master of Arena and Tuning Expert trophies missables as well. That might look daunting, but remember, 100% of these can be avoided by simply doing the same missions as I do. Collectibles can always be obtained through mission replay as long as we have the mission unlocked. There are no multiplayer trophies, and using cloud saves is not useful during this run. The 3rd ending can only be obtained from New Game Plus 2 onward, meaning you will have to play through the game 3 times no matter what. And lastly, for time of completion I got an 18-hour run. However, that includes all cutscenes and skippable dialogue. Removing those brings the platinum to 11 hours. Now there are just 2 more things I want to quickly elaborate on here. First is the most vital part to this game, your AC build. Your mech is composed of up to 12 individual parts. This video is not meant as a deep dive into how each of these parts function, so I will not get into much detail in regard to that. If you are looking for in-depth explanation and comparisons of all weapons and parts, I highly recommend the video series on the topic by Kryde. His content on the matter is quite interesting and informative. For me, all that is important is to make it as easy as possible. And frankly speaking, a heavyweight tank build just makes a lot of the game very easy. I will therefore mainly focus on making our build as beefy and hard-hitting as possible. I will of course still use different builds occasionally when extreme maneuverability is required. The other noteworthy topic is that of S ranks. We need to obtain an S rank on all missions in the game to obtain the perfect mercenary trophy. So let me briefly touch on what an S rank even is. When replaying a mission, you will be given a rank from D to S, S being the highest. To get an S rank, there are 3 main factors, being completion time, ammo consumed, and damage taken, all of which of course should stay as low as possible. Dying also immediately voids the S rank, since retrying from checkpoint is not allowed. Lastly, I will only mention that there are certain missions where the 3 mentioned requirements are extremely tight. In these cases, you can make use of a hidden additional requirement, taking out surrounding enemies. I generally don't recommend doing that since it only wastes time, but it does also increase your score, making it almost mandatory for an S rank in some missions. But I will also again go over the details when we get there. That sums up all I wanted to say before we get into the game. Following is a little showcase of all the trophies. With that, I hope you enjoy the run, and I will see you later.